Hello, this is Henry. I am a doctor in regional Australia, Yorta Yorta country. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. I'm giving half of my income all year this year to charity organisations around the world that I think are making the world a better place. I've been really lucky in my life, and other people around the world haven't been as lucky, and that's not fair. So what are we going to do about it? So the situation is that there's organisations around the world doing great work, and you can count that work. You can count how many people have malaria, and then you can give them all mosquito nets, and then you can count how many people are dying of malaria after that. And that's great. And you can count how much assets people have, and then you can give them access to banking services and microfinancing, and you can count how many assets they have after that, and that's great too. And then there are organisations around the world that are doing great work that you can't count, because how can you put a value on art and the inspiration that creates, the ideas that generates, and how can you quantify the value of a protest for minority rights? It's really difficult to quantify a lot of good that organisations do around the world. So when it comes to trying to decide how to make the world a better place, it's tricky. Now, I've created this website for what I'm doing this year, and what I'm doing is my job, which is working as a doctor. And I'm using that as my fundraising activity. I'm not running a marathon. I'm not running a bake sale. I'm doing what I was trained to do. I'm doing what society deems is most useful for me to do. And that's the fundraising activity. And so this is the workathon. In terms of donating, this is my pyramid scheme. I'm giving money to great causes, and I'm giving even more money to really, really great causes. And that process of deciding what causes are great, what are really, really great, that's really tricky for the reasons I've said. But you can kind of be sure on one thing, It's hard to figure out what causes are, doing how much good, but you can be pretty sure of one thing, and that's that the right thing to do is probably not to sit on our asses hoarding money and buying a shiny new car every 3 years, negative gearing 3 investment properties, and setting up $1 million index fund trust for our kids. That's probably not the right thing for us to be doing. It's the default thing to do, but the default is not always the right thing to do. And this paycheck, we've just busted through the 20,000 barrier. So, hurrah! And a big thank you to everyone who has contributed. I've given to 2 organisations this fortnight. One is the Helen Keller International organisation, the other is Australians for Uganda. Helen Keller International, big organisation. It's one of these countable ones. So it's recommended by GiveWell. GiveWell's this big charity evaluator in the US. It's all about effective giving, cost-benefit analysis. How can we do the most good with our money? It's a centerpiece of the effective altruism movement, which is very much all about that kind of thing. They're mostly preventative health charities because these are countable and they're also highly effective. The Helen Keller International comes in specifically for its vitamin A supplementation program. So vitamin A is an essential vitamin for human development and also for eyesight. If you don't have enough vitamin A, you can get growth deficiency, which is a big problem for kids, and it can also cause you to lose your sight through drying of the eyes and keratomalacia, whatever that is. It's not good for the eyes. Now, giving someone vitamin A is really cheap. It costs like $1.10 to give someone vitamin A, and that lasts 4 to 6 months. It's easy, it's cheap. whether it actually has much of an impact is a little bit difficult to say, actually. So GiveWell has this big long report on why it's chosen the Helen Keller International's vitamin A supplementation program as one of its most highly recommended charities. And there was a big Cochrane review done in about 2013 that looked at a whole bunch of data from the 1980s, 1990s on vitamin A deficiency and supplementation. And it showed overall about a 25% decrease in mortality rates among kids for vitamin A supplementation, which is massive. But then more recently, around the same time, there was a study done involving 1 million children in India, which showed that vitamin A supplementation doesn't actually do much at all for mortality. And that's even though there's quite a bit of vitamin A deficiency in India. So the data's a little bit cloudy. I mean, where Helen Keller International works is mainly sub-Saharan Africa, and that's where the 1980s, 1990s data was from, whereas it doesn't do a lot of work in India. So I think for that and for a few other reasons that are detailed in this long report, GiveWell still, on the balance of probabilities, recommends Helen Keller International's work as being highly effective. But yeah, the data's not that clear, which is a little bit disappointing. Helen Keller International actually does a huge range of work. They don't just do the vitamin A supplementation program. They do all sorts of stuff. In terms of their finances, they spend $40 million on the vitamin A supplementation, which is a lot. They spend $120 million on treating other kind of medicines and things. They seem to treat a lot of other neglected tropical diseases, and treating neglected tropical diseases is usually a really cost-effective intervention in itself. It's not one that GiveWell's really talked about. But it's a little bit hard to know just because of that split. And the way I gave to Helen Keller was through the Life You Can Save. But it's a little bit difficult to know when you're giving to Helen Keller International, am I actually just giving to their vitamin A supplementation program? I think what I'm actually doing is giving to the entire foundation, so supporting all of their programs. So even if the vitamin A supplementation program is somehow incredibly effective, it's a bit hard to know. Maybe that's subdued a bit by the fact that I'm giving to all of their other programs as well. And they do give a certain amount of money to programs that run in the US, and that makes me a little bit uncomfortable because I don't really want to be, don't think it's really fair that I have to support the deficient public health system of one of the world's richest countries. I gave to Helen Keller International through the Life You Can Save. Life You Can Save is it's an organization founded by Peter Singer, who's a philosopher, a big character in the effective altruism movement. And what the Life You Can Save allows you to do is donate to a variety of international charities that may not be tax deductible in Australia, but it lets you do it in a way that is tax deductible if you care about that. So I've donated to the Helen Keller Foundation through the Life You Can Save. And I guess the bottom line is, regardless of exactly whether I'm giving just to the vitamin A supplementation program or there are other programs which seem really good in themselves as well, ultimately at the end of the day, I think probably what the Helen Keller Foundation does with my $1,381 is going to be a lot better than what I would have done with it anyway. And I think at the end of the day, that's what really matters. And the same goes as well for the other charity I'm giving to, which is Australians for Uganda. I'm giving them $400. And Australians for Uganda is an Australian organisation founded by a friend of mine from medical school, Angus Hayes. And Angus, as well as a number of other medical students from the University of Queensland, went to Uganda for some medical rotations. And while they were there, they met this lovely man, Mr. Moses Ogwal. Here he is. He is a pastor in Lira, which is a town in northern Uganda. And he's deeply involved in his community and trying to help his community. He knows his community. He knows the problems that the people in his community are facing. And he has some good ideas for what solutions to those problems might be. It's very grassroots, and that's what I really like about this project. It's really just some people in Australia trying to use the resources that they have and use the grassroots knowledge of people in Lira to try and funnel those resources in a way that's really effective. Moses has done some really cool work in the past. He was involved in this other organisation called Wheels for Life, which distributes bicycles, distributed a number of bicycles to people in Lira so that they could attend medical appointments when they might not have otherwise had a means of transportation. And then Australians for Uganda has also, through Moses, funded life-saving medical interventions for people in and around Lira as well, which is really cool. I gave them $400 a few months ago, and that money went towards helping some people there with medical bills, and also went to buying a sewing machine for a woman around Lira who is going to use it to repair and make clothes, potentially as a form of income, which I think is a really cool project. So it sounds like from chats with Moses, what he's kind of focused on now is a bit of COVID-19 relief stuff, providing food and resources to people who are struggling. So I'm really keen to see what Moses does with this other $400. Very grassroots. I really like your work. Good work, Moses. Good work, Angus. Love to see it. That's this paycheck this fortnight. Super keen to hear from anyone out there what you think. Am I doing a good job? Am I doing a crap job? Am I just putting band-aids on a corrupt, broken capitalist system? Do we really need violent revolution, or am I wasting my time? Because really the true solution to the world's problems is unregulated free markets, and without approaching true full libertarianism, we'll never solve the world's problems. I don't know. I really don't know, and I'm very keen to hear from people out there what you might think. It's a puzzle. It's tricky to solve the world's problems, but for the love of God, will you just stop buying stuff you don't need?